What is going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. Time to talk some football. You guys know me, Loudmouth of the South, SAJ. Definitely got to give our shout out to our friend Saul Rock Cardenas and the End Zone Helmet Painting for this lovely, lovely piece of Brahma's not real merchandise. Again, if you're looking for authentic like helmets, but don't want to pay the authentic like prices, you've got some friends out there. Make sure you give them a call. However, tonight I am coming to you live from Chief Auto Parts Studios. I don't know if you guys remember it. I grew up, did a lot of work on my own cars because that's what you did when you were lower middle income in the world. And so spent a lot of time at Chief O'Reilly's, Pep Boys, things like that, because that's how you kept your car going. To this side of the screen is our illustrious guest, XFL Mike G. I keep forgetting that it's reversed, and I keep pointing the wrong direction all the time. But Mike, take it away.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm coming to you live from Bond Rock's bar. It was on the Riverwalk. It's to be no longer. They're going to take it down and put up a hotel. But it was a great place to see Iron Maiden and Slayer and groups like that back in the day.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that. I actually just saw that article on, I believe it was Express News' Facebook page or something. And I've never spent any time there, but I'd heard about it. I knew of the place, just never went down there. And I saw this article that, rock and roll is, officially gone on the Riverwalk. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I saw the article and I'm like, oh, no way. The one place one of the places I've never gone is one of the places that I should have gone to. So yeah, it is an end of an era there for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those places you wanted to go to before it's gone, and it's kind of sad that it's going that way.
Yeah, but I mean, such is life, especially downtown here in San Antonio, as we're starting to grow and expand, and we're starting to get more hotels and more downtown living and different accommodations. And honestly, I mean, we could have an hour and a half long discussion about, potentially having new facilities built downtown for all of our sporting teams. But again, you've got to have some place for those, guests to spend time at. So it's only natural that you're going to build the hotels first before you start calling for any kind of crazy convention centers or anything like that. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. This weekend was absolutely crazy when it came to football, especially college and professional football. Lots of just unexpected turns of events. Heck, even in fantasy football, we'll get to that towards the end of the show. But we even got some crazy updates about fantasy football. But why don't we start our show, Mike? As we always do, right? I always let you Cowboy fans go first because really, what do you guys have to celebrate? So, and I say that tongue in cheek because you guys are 3-2, and I want to make a comparison in a little bit when we get to that. But Mike, why don't you talk to us about this weekend's game against the Steelers?
Do I have to? No. No, but I haven't given you my full assessment of what I think this season's going to be. But it was a typical Mike McCarthy, Dallas Cowboy, Dak-ish game, making bad throws, but saving it at the end. Some really unfortunate calls with coaching and how Mike McCarthy needs to give up the play calling. I mean, granted, this is his final season, so he's going to go out doing it his way. But I'm still on board. I'm still a Cowboy fan. But my expectation is somewhere it's never been because I'm not like that. I'm not a Cowboys fan who screams, we're going to win every year.
Yeah.
But this year, that is the only expectation. Given everything that's transpired with the Mike McCarthy era, it's it. Win or that's it. It's over, and we got to find somebody else and start all over again.
I mean, you're not wrong. And, I know we've had the conversation the last time you were on about Mike McCarthy and Mike McCarthy, Green Bay Mike McCarthy versus Dallas Cowboys Mike McCarthy, and how there really isn't that much difference. It's more the people that are around him that kind of allowed him to do what he did when he was in Green Bay. versus the talent that he has around him in Dallas and where that's going to kind of lead them. So, obviously, you guys played the Steelers. The Steelers are not necessarily a slouch team. However, I know, they're still kind of trying to figure out their quarterback situation. And looks like they had a pretty decent showing this week. Maybe not exactly what Steelers fans were expecting. But things, they turned out marginally okay, right? Justin Fields, 15 to 27, 131 passing and 2 tutties. Didn't look bad, right?
Yeah, I don't know where this get rid of him so we can get Wilson back in here is coming from. But if I were in the Pittsburgh Steelers fans' shoes, I'd be like, you know what? I'm okay with Justin Fields. He's a young guy. He's growing into the role. He's listening to his coaches by saying, hey, take this easy throw, take this check down, take this crosser, instead of trying to jump it down the field all the time. And they even highlighted that on the broadcast, I believe, about him making correct decisions and better decisions, and they're almost like, "See, we told you." That moment when you're coaching the kid and they do what you ask them to do, and they're like, "Hey, it worked." But I do like Fields. I do like the idea of keeping him on until he can't do it, and then you throw in Wilson. This time you give Wilson to get better. He's probably still rusty. Let him get. I think this is his first week of practice, of legitimate practice. Was last week or going to be this week. So, hold off on that. Let Fields, let him cook, like they say, let him cook.
Yeah.
Now, but going back to Dallas, I got to touch on this because I'll forget. We have our scouting staff does an incredible job of getting all these great players that we've gotten and drafted and paid very well. The downside of that is you're going to have to be young and cheap somewhere. And unfortunately for Dallas, that's the offensive line.
Yeah.
Where that's what's killing Dak. I am not one of those people who when a team is not doing well, fire the coach and get rid of the quarterback. I dislike McCarthy because he's got a proven track record. He is what he is. Dak has had flashes of ability, and I don't lay everything at the quarterback's feet. I don't lay everything at the coach's feet necessarily to start with, but at this point, he's earned that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Looking at Dak's stats, they're, other than the 2 interceptions, they're relatively respectable, right? First and foremost, BD and I talked about this last week. You guys suffered in the run game. You guys have no real run game. Uncle Rico, as BD likes to call him, he rushed 20 times for 87 yards. That's about, 4 and change, right? Not bad, but nothing explosive, right? Didn't run for any touchdowns. The Ewok only rushed 6 times for 17 yards. Again, the running game is non-existent, and it begs the question that BD has asked several times: why didn't Jerry go after some running talent to open up that passing game a little bit more, right? Again, Prescott, 29 for 42, 352, incredible amount of yards, 2 touchdowns, but he got the 2 interceptions. And the 2 interceptions were clearly not, they were rush throws. He was trying to put, pepper on the target and completely missed, right? So it's not like he's an absolute horrible quarterback. He just needs a little bit more time. As you said, they cheaped out on the offensive line. They cheaped out on running back. And, that's, I think, starting to really affect you guys. And it's going to affect you in the long run. So, knowing that you played a Steelers team that is, fairly solid, right? They were 3-1 going into that game. And nothing, super spectacular, not, these absolute blowout wins or anything like that, but they've taken command of their games. You now know that you've played a pretty serious team. What do you think the prospects are for the rest of your season going forward from here?
Watching that game, when you follow a team long enough and you get through the beginning of the season, the first quarter of the season, you look for them to win, and to win convincingly, to kind of kick them up a notch, to go on a streak. I'm not seeing that with Dallas. I'm not. I look at our schedule. Our schedule was incredibly tough given the division that we're playing in, and just in general because we had a winning record last year. So I'm still on board. I'm still on the DAC bus, and I'm still going wherever Dallas is going.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't look good. I hate to say it, but it doesn't look good. I mean, we could be as low as 9-7, maybe barely squeak in the playoffs and get eliminated in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, your next game is arguably going to be one of your toughest games that you're going to play all season, and that's against Detroit. And if I remember correctly, it'll be at home for you, so they'll at least have the home field advantage there. After that, you have a bye, which is probably a much needed bye, right? And then you've got a potentially somewhat easy game after that in San Francisco 49ers. But who knows? Frisco could potentially turn it around. Chances are probably not without Kittle and, some of the weapons that they normally rely on that are banged up and not, accounted for. And then after that, I mean, you've got the Falcons and the Eagles, right? So again, like you said, it's not going to be an easy schedule. I don't see any gimme games here. And so if McCarthy doesn't right the ship and doesn't figure out how to strengthen up that offensive line, you're going to be relying on, by the way, shout out to the Cowboys kicker, who's a former UFL kicker, who's absolutely crushing it, right? He got he got Specialist Player of the Month last month, which is insane, right? But, I mean, the kid's phenomenal. He's an incredible kicker. Anyways, that's going to be where you're going to, have to kind of rely on. And who really needs, who can bank on going to the playoffs when you're relying on your kicker to win a game, right? That's that tough part. Even your defense, as strong as your defense has been, there have been some holes in that too, right? I don't know that it's time to sell the farm yet, just like you said. But if they don't figure something out soon, you're going to have a really tough road the next couple of games, and that could determine where you guys wind up, or if you even wind up in the playoffs, right?
So, yeah, it's right now. Who's the front runner of the NFC East? Who's leading the division? Do you know?
Is it not
without looking?
Is it not the Eagles?
No, it's Washington.
Oh,
Washington has I believe I think they're undefeated or one loss, and number one ranked offense in the NFL, have punted maybe like 3 times all year, and we got to play them twice. And we got to play Philly twice. And Philly doesn't matter the record. Philly's one of those games that doesn't matter the record. It's always going to be a tough game. And believe it or not, the Giants are as well. You saw the trouble that we had in the Meadowlands. That Giants will always give us a fit. So with those 5 games right there, right off the bat, not including Detroit, and you say San Francisco is an easy game facetiously, but knowing my luck, CMC will come off the injured reserve list the week before and run for 300 yards,
Yo,
but we don't take those Niner games for granted.
No. So yeah, you guys definitely have. I mean, that bye week. Yes, Robert. I don't know that it was all the Vikings, and we'll get to that in a bit. But we're going to get to that in a bit, right? Because we got to get to the real team, which would be my Green Bay Packers.
They still play.
Obviously. Yeah, unfortunately. We played the Los Angeles Rams, and that was a bit of a rough game. Not going to lie. I watched it and was very confused by what I was watching, especially to a 1-3 team that, we kind of were struggling the way that we did. Jordan Love, 15-26, 224, 2 tutties and a pick. That pick was clearly to the defense. Like, I don't even know who he was throwing to. It was just kind of rough. Meanwhile, Stafford, who we've dealt with for years, right? So we kind of know his MO. There's a little bit of a break when he moved over to LA. We don't play him twice a year. And yes, LeVay, what's his name, is 0-5 against LaFleur. But I was trying to remember his first name and I can't remember it. Anyways, no, it's McVay. Sean McVay. Yeah, there you go. I knew I'd remember it eventually. He's doesn't necessarily have a great winning record, but neither does Stafford against the Packers, right? What I will say is that our defense, surprisingly, which is a good thing, right? Because our defense struggled so badly last year. We relied on offense so much. This game, it's much more defense. We started out, I mean, we got 7 in the first quarter. Second quarter, we got 3. We gave up 13, though. And that's where our defense kind of, fell apart a little bit. And then we managed to get it back together, and we got our points in the third, but then we let them score 6 in the fourth. Now, I'll take the 6 because if I remember correctly, I believe it was 2 field goals, which, we managed to keep them out of the end zone. But it's kind of like, our friend, the Brahma Mariachi's favorite term, bend but don't break defense, right? Which just means all we can do is keep them out of the red zone. That's basically what we kind of resorted to, right? Try and hold them as much as you can, force them to run where you can, which we did get kind of eaten up on rushing yards. Kyron Williams went off for 102 against us. And then this Blake Corum guy, 5 rushes, 25 yards. Now, maybe that's not a whole bunch, but that's an average of 5 yards a rush. I mean, that's insane. So yeah, our defense thankfully kept us in the game, but even then they struggled. And Robert is right. Like I can't brag about winning this game when the Rams are just kind of, running on a skeleton crew. And that's one of the things that the announcers were talking about. So, did we win? Yeah. Does it count? Yeah. But is it something that we can go and start bragging about? Probably not. Right. So meanwhile, multi-million-dollar Jordan Love, he's showing some of those flashes of greatness, but then he shows some flashes of, mediocre quarterback. Our next 2 games, we've got the Cardinals and the Texans. And then we finish out that 3-game stretch right there for October with the Jaguars, right? So Jaguars, no offense, Jag fans, but I'm not too terribly worried about that game.
Brahma babes, her ears are red right now.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure she's probably yelling all kind of expletives at me. And I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Houston Texans is going to be bad. It's going to be a bloodbath. Even the Cardinals, I'm worried about that game, right? Fantasy football, I've got my guy as my starting quarterback there, Kyler Murray with his step ladder, so we can make sure to see the receivers and throw to him. But the Cardinals can be dangerous, especially for us. Now, I will say that our defense, our safeties and our cornerbacks, much stronger than what I thought they were going to be. We've got one guy who's gotten picks in every game since the beginning of the season. So that's a stat that we didn't have before. An incredible stat for us, and I'm loving it. But this is not the Green Bay team that we expected to see. This is not the Green Bay team that we were sold. Yes, sir.
Now, how would you just? I'm gonna give you 3 adjectives. How would you describe the Green Bay Packers right now? Young, veteran, or old? Which of those 3 would you pick for them right now?
Oh, young by far. We're the second youngest team in the NFL.
So yeah, I mean they're going to have to learn to win, and it's going to be all based on Jordan Love, what he can do. The defense can only do so much, and if they're young as well, and they're growing and they're learning. But let me ask you this: right now at this stage in their career, contract aside, who would you rather have as your quarterback? Love or Fields?
Oh, that's a tough question. Each of them bring something to the equation.
But I'm talking about what you've actually seen. No potential, just where they are right now.
If I had to pick, I'd have to say Love. And here's the reason why. Love has a little bit more experience. He's shown, and I know you said, don't talk about potential, but you got to talk about potential. Love has shown that he has those flashes of greatness, and under the correct mentorship and leadership, he could get there. The problem is we don't have anybody to mentor him. Whereas Justin Fields at least has what's his name?
Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, Mr. Wilson. I was thinking I'd like to buy 2 drugs, please. That meme that's how I remember things. Fields has Wilson, which would help out. Love had Rodgers for a little while, but there's speculation that Rodgers treated Love the way Favre treated Rodgers,
which is like, F this I'm here kid. To play football. Screw them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was all about them, right? And not knowing Favre personally, but knowing his career and knowing some of the stories that I've heard from my family in Wisconsin and stuff like that, it's pretty believable that Rodgers would be treated that way and then turn around and treat somebody that way. Look what he did to the coach. Okay. I know Rankin is saying that the Vikings caused that. That's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the one who said, this guy's got to go. Okay. And that's why they fired him.
Now I saw this post and I haven't validated it yet. It was allegedly Aaron Rodgers' reaction to Saleh getting fired. And it was basically to the effect of, personally, I didn't like the guy, but it's business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's terrible. That's terrible to say that the man just got fired, escorted out of the building by security, and I didn't like the dude personally.
But you've got to think about who it's coming from. Mm-hmm. It's coming from arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks, or it's going to be going down in the record books as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. One of the greatest quarterbacks, not necessarily one of the greatest people. Okay. Rodgers has never been known for his bedside manner, if you will. Okay. He had a great relationship with Davante Adams until it wasn't great. Right. And then you start hearing some of the rumors and some of the stories and some of the buzz and everything. I'm trying to remember who our running back was that we had when Rodgers was still around before the Vikings stole our guy, Jones. I think Jones might have been there. But like you can hear some stories. Even Donald Driver? Even Donald Driver, who's arguably one of the meekest people you could ever meet, kind of gave Rodgers the right. And Driver was there like his last 2 years were with Rodgers, and it was just like they just basically iced him out. And he thankfully didn't go the way of Jerry Rice and keep playing until he was getting Social Security. But he's got some good information, some good stories. Oh my God, this guy! This guy. But so all that to say this, right? We know Rodgers is probably solely responsible for Saleh getting slotted out the door. I want to change gears a little bit because there's something that I've been kind of kicking around. And although they don't function exactly the same, I'd like to get your ideas on an idea that I've been kind of kicking around. And the idea is this: while they don't look the same, they function the same. Green Bay and Dallas are essentially the same team. What are your thoughts on
that? Yeah, Jerry Jones doesn't own the Green Bay Packers. They're owned by much, much better ownership. They're publicly owned, I believe. And Mark Murphy, I believe, is CEO and runs them very well. They do an excellent job acquiring staff, getting good players, and getting good value for players. And the reason why they have the loyalty they have, because fans trust that they're going to eventually rebuild them up. In Dallas, it's like, I got some extra money. Who can I throw it at real quick? Who cares if he can play? It's about the big contract, about the big name, and it's about Dallas being so grandiose. I would trade situations in a heartbeat if I could keep the same color scheme, logo, and name, and have that as the Dallas Cowboys.
And again, like I said, they look different, they operate differently, but they function the same on the field. You've got a quarterback who has flashes of greatness, who isn't great. Now, does Love have that potential to be great? Potentially, yes, because again, he's still a much younger quarterback and he's got a lot to learn. And he could definitely use some veteran leadership, which I still don't understand why they didn't bring a guy to back him up that is a veteran quarterback to help him with some of those, ups and downs that a quarterback experiences in a season, right? You've got big name receivers in Dallas. You've got no name receivers in Green Bay. They're both still kind of dropping passes. They're both having friction with the quarterback, right? What's his name? Dobbs, who got suspended by the team because he forgot to show up, or he refused to show up for practice because he's beefing with Love, right? You saw who was the receiver this weekend that went off on CD, right? Went off on
I don't know if I would going off is I don't know, because we don't know what he was saying.
Well, we don't. But it's safe to assume he wasn't happy. Otherwise, why would he say something, right? Your running game is non-existent. You're getting some production from Uncle Rico. We spent, we bought the farm on what's his name, and we're getting some production out of him, right? So while they operate differently, they're still kind of functioning the same at the end, and they're a middle of the pack team. Would you not agree with that?
Oh, definitely. In both cases, like I said, but the trajectories are very different because they're meeting right now in the middle. One's going up, one's going. We don't know where they're going.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. They may stagnate there. They may drop down. Jesse has a great idea. Tom Brady. He's got some time on his hands, right? Or better yet, Tom Brady. Yeah. Belichick can come privately coach Love. Maybe make something out of him.
If I was the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones be damned, and Belichick had any interest, I'm like, what do you need? What do you need? He's got a philosophy, he's got a knowledge, and he's run successful programs. New England was a program, and he's done that successfully. Bring him in. We're not going to get him. It's pie in the sky, but I'd love to have him. But we need to make a change, and looking at what's out there, I'm not very thrilled because this might be the last coach that Jerry Jones ever hires.
Well, no, because Jerry's going to be around for another 1,000 years, I promise you. But let me add to the dream team. Belichick is head coach. Wade Phillips is the defense coach.
I think they they both run 3-4s, don't they?
Yeah.
There you go.
We just built the super team.
We need a line in Dallas. We were very spoiled when we had Zach Martin, even Tyler Biotish. There was a great interior lineman from Notre Dame that retired because he had Guillain-Barré syndrome, and I can't remember his name. We just lost one of our tackles this offseason. We've got 3 brand new guys in there, and they're getting their feet wet, but they're not I'd say one of them's not handling it too well. But then again, playing left tackle in the NFL week in, week out is one of the toughest gigs in the world. Well, not in the world, but in the sporting world.
It is. So speaking of tough times, I think we need to talk about the tough time that Josh Allen had against the Texans this weekend. Right? What's up, Elizabeth? Good to see you. Josh Allen, arguably one of the stronger candidates in fantasy football this year, right? Been on an absolute tear. Got me a couple of wins. I appreciate that, Josh. Thank you. He went 9 of 30, 131 yards, 1 touchdown. Right? Texans were all over him. Meanwhile, our guy CJ Stroud, 28 of 38, 331. Now, I'll take that. It's a little dicey because he did only get 1 touchdown, one passing touchdown rather, and 1 interception. but 331 yards, it kind of works itself out. I'll take that, right? And then Akers. Now, here's the thing I don't understand, right? Their rushing game, the Texans' rushing game, Akers did pretty good, 9 carries, 42 yards. But then you've got Agunbowale, what I don't know, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to slaughter your name, but I don't remember how to pronounce his name. 15 carries, 30 yards. Come on. I almost feel like with enough blocking, I could get 2 yards a carry, you know? May only be 1 carry, but still, you know what I mean? And then CJ Stroud even put up better numbers than that. But yeah, Elizabeth is right. It was a good showing for the Texans, you know, especially after that shellacking they took the other week. This was good for them to play a strong Buffalo Bills team and have defense just absolutely shut down. What the heck's his name? Allen. Here I am forgetting his name, and the guy's, you know, helping me win games. What were your thoughts on that game?
Who's the running back for Buffalo?
Cook.
Right. Big name we were talking about fantasy a second ago. Big name in the fantasy world preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo forgot he plays for them. I mean, they could not. He was gashing them when they were giving him the ball, but it was just like, was Josh Allen calling it the plays? It's like, you know, you got to have balance. You can't have an entire possession be 3 plays in 19 seconds and punt the ball back. You can't do that. I don't care who your quarterback is. You've got to be balanced. Establish the run the game, utilize it. That being said, Houston and DeMarco Ryans took advantage of that, and they played it very, very well. That was a game that I was kind of on the fence if Houston can get it. Remember, I'm kind of wait and see on Houston right now. I feel like they had the benefit of a weak schedule last year, and how they benefit is this year they get a tougher schedule, and they really hadn't played anybody yet to this point except for Buffalo. So getting that win against a big team like Buffalo will do wonders for them going down the road.
Well, did they not play the Vikings and get absolutely destroyed?
I forgot about that game.
Yeah, Texans fans didn't. And I know Rankin didn't because he was celebrating like a mofo. So,
well, I meant a win playing against a good team.
Okay, fair enough. I'll allow that one. But yeah, so I'm still pro Stroud. I think the kid has kind of what it, you know, he has the potential makings of a phenomenal quarterback. I don't know that he's necessarily surrounded with all the weapons that he needs to make it happen. And, you know, the defense can be a little bit suspect. If we go back to the stats, Josh Allen rushed 4 times for 54 yards. You can't have a quarterback rushing for 54 yards, man. That can't happen. Okay. That is just, you know, suspect defense right there. So they need to tighten up on defense for sure. Overall, though, they potentially have it, right? Stroud has some weapons around him. I think it's up to him to kind of figure out how to best utilize those weapons and make the best out of what he has. And I think once he figures that out, then they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Definitely. The first half, he was force feeding Collins, and then he gets hurt. You know, they still got to be considerate of Diggs because, you know, if Diggs doesn't get the ball, he's not going to be happy. Tank Dell, the first 4 games of the season kind of fell off the face of the earth, but now he's going to be back. So I like CJ. I like where he's going. He's got a lot of potential, but something that you can't really practice as far as like one-on-one drills is sharing the ball, moving the ball down the field, sharing it to different receivers. It's kind of like it's the opposite of what happened in Buffalo. After Diggs left, the first 4 games, the Buffalo receivers were sharing the wealth and the ball was going all over. This game, that stopped. That went away. So we can see managing your receiving core and moving the ball down the field. Allen couldn't do it in this game. Stroud, he just did what he needed to do, got the ball down the field, got the W.
Yeah. So, again, I know Houston fans are going to look at it pretty much the same way that any of the rest of us would. A dub's a dub. Doesn't matter how ugly it was. Even Rig himself was talking about it, and he said that, I mean, he was at the game, and he was like, man, there were parts that did not look so good. So, talking about things that didn't look so good, we're going to kick over to college football because there were some things that did not look so good in some of these insane upsets, right? I would be doing BD a disservice by not talking about the Aggies. And so, BD, here's your plug for the Aggies. The Aggies won 41-10 against number 21 ranked Missouri, and they looked pretty much in control the whole entire game. We're done talking about the Aggies now. Some of the games that I definitely wanted to talk about, Georgia beat Auburn. Kind of knew that was going to happen. Ohio State beat Iowa. You knew that was going to happen. What you didn't know was going to happen was that Vandy was going to basically dogfight Alabama to the end and just pull off that miracle of a win. And we're talking about number 7 ranked Alabama going up against unranked Vanderbilt, which, I mean, when's the last time that Vanderbilt has had a top 25 football team, right? It's been a little while. And for them to come out and just absolutely stomp the way they did. And then if I remember correctly, I think I saw a reel on Facebook today or yesterday about Vandy's quarterback. He's a Hispanic young man. And this is a huge thing for him because from a football standpoint, he's been overlooked by a lot of the schools. And for him to come out and put on a presentation like that and have the field presence the way that he did, man, kudos to that young man. And I hope that he has another year of eligibility left so he can go out and turn a program like Vanderbilt around, put them back on the map, and put himself on people's radar. The kid's an incredible young man. Look him up. He's got a phenomenal story, and you definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, I read some on it, but I hadn't read. I completely forgot when you started talking what I had read about it. But if Coach Saban had been there at Alabama, that wouldn't have happened. It's a whole different tide now. It's a whole different tide now because these kids are running wild because we're Alabama.
That's true.
Some of these kids who weren't there when they were earning some of these trophies and national championships, and they feel like, hey, I got my NIL deal. I'll go play for a powerhouse, and the tough guy, the mean coach is not there anymore. So we're just going to have fun old time. Different times for Alabama now.
You're not wrong, man. You are not wrong. And so I guess it'd be fair to say that the tide has rolled out. Okay. We're going to leave that bad joke there. Number 24 ranked Michigan lost to Washington. That was another kind of a surprise, right? Washington, they're not one of those power ranked teams. But they're not a slouch either.
They were in the national championship game not too long ago, weren't they?
Yeah.
And so again, that was kind of a revenge game. They were waiting for Michigan.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Elizabeth keeps bringing up I said she brings up the Longhorns, and she brought up something about Aggies, but I'm not going to put that on there because there might be kids watching. I'm kidding. So BD and I talked about it last week. Texas finally dipped their toes in the SEC pool against Mississippi State. They won 35-13. It's an SEC team, but is it really? It's like SEC light. So not necessarily a big challenge. This weekend, right? That's Texas OU. right? That's the Red River Shootout. That is the game of all games. And they finally get to meet. I mean, this is a conference game. It's number 1 ranked Texas versus number 18 ranked Oklahoma. And a lot of people have said, even though Texas is still ranked number 1, that Texas is overranked by far. So, Mike, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on this game?
On the game, it's going to be weird seeing the SEC logo for the Red River rivalry. It's weird, and to me, it's an abomination. If the powers that be had any sense, right, they would take this money that they first lured A&M way with, and now Texas with, and bring it back here and reunite and bring back the Southwest Conference. Can you imagine how strong that would be?
Oh, yeah. But that's never going to happen.
Never going to happen. No. This is an alternate universe here that we have. It did seem weird. It doesn't seem like alternate universe here that Oklahoma and Texas are going to be playing an SEC game.
Yeah.
That's it's weird.
It absolutely blows my mind not seeing Texas in the Big 12 numbers, right? It just like, wow. It would be like, to me, it would almost be like Wisconsin, who actually won, by the way, this weekend. I think they played Louisiana Tech hair care and nail salon school, but a win's a win. They actually put up like 56 or 59. It was insane. But anyways, it would be like Wisconsin or Ohio or even Michigan leaving the Big Ten to join like the Pac-12 or something like that, which is what, like Pac-3 now or something. And next week it'll be Pac-100. God, the moves are just insane right now. I can't even keep track of it all. But anyways, you're taking like a cornerstone of a division and putting it in a place where it didn't even belong. It's so weird. It's so weird. Elizabeth, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not playing Tech at all. And that's kind of odd, right? But you still get Oklahoma. So at least there's that, right? And I'm not a fan of Texas. I'm not necessarily a fan, but I will be cheering for Texas for this game because I'm definitely not a fan of Oklahoma. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. The week after that, you guys are Texas is taking on number 5 ranked Georgia. Okay. Here's a little wild card for you, though. On October 26th, number 1 Texas is taking on Vanderbilt. So it could be an upset in the making. We're going to have to wait and see.
This is turning out to be a really, really good football season. I'm enjoying it all. I mean, Saturday, the whole week, in fact, leading up to Sunday morning, I made sure I had everything done. I was not going to be disturbed on Sunday. From the moment I woke up, there was football on to the moment I fell asleep. So I'm just loving this season, and I love what Vandy's doing. As far as going back to Texas and Oklahoma, I haven't watched enough of Oklahoma, so I'm going to take Texas, but potential for a trap game. It's a rivalry game, so we never know.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter what conference they're in. It doesn't matter what country they're in. That game is always that is going to be like a Dallas Eagles game or a Green Bay Detroit game. It's always going to be a fight to the bitter end. So
hold on. Dallas, Philly, yeah, national NFL championships on both sides and contending in rough division, and everybody's always contending for the Super Bowl from our division. Texas and Oklahoma, yeah. But Detroit and Green Bay, when's the last time Detroit won a Super Bowl? How are they a rival? How many times have they knocked you out of the playoffs?
That's why they're a rival.
You're just a division rival. It's not the same as Philly and Dallas.
It counts.
Can't compare those. Can't compare.
It counts.
We're talking about blood, sweat, and tears here.
102 years in the NFL. Okay. And you've got what? 50 maybe?
We're talking Super Bowl era here, not when there were 6 teams in the league.
Sit back down. Sit back down. Let the old people talk. Okay. Speaking of
who's got the most wins as a franchise in the Super Bowl era?
Wouldn't that be the Steelers?
No, that'd be the Dallas Cowboys.
Or
by
wouldn't
10.
Wouldn't it be the Patriots?
No,
because they've got more rings than you do.
Yeah, but they only won for like a decade. And Cowboys won in the 80s, the 70s, and the 90s.
They won one game in the 70s, 2 games in the 80s.
Two.
Okay, 2. And
none in the 80s,
in the 90s,
and 3 in the 90s.
Yeah. Okay, so there you go.
So our team has more Super Bowls than your rivalry put together.
Only because Detroit never lives up to their
because you've been in the NFL longer. That's right.
Yep. Hey man, 13 world championships, sir. And that was before the NFL was the NFL that it is now. So I'm just saying, we know how to win. Anyways, speaking of people knowing how to win, UTSA decided to make the smart move and play their biggest competitor of the season, the bye week. So I've got to take shots. Yeah, I've got to take shots at UTSA. It's not my alma mater, but it may as well be. I love UTSA. I have been a fan since before UTSA even had a football program, back when they had like a softball field, right? And basketball and Devin Brown, and all the glorious stories that come from the Convocation Center. They are not the UTSA they were last year, and a lot of it is because of Frank Harris, right? UTSA obviously had a bye. They're going to be playing Rice this next weekend. That's going to be a huge game for them. But I certainly don't expect them to get a win. I think this is going to be a rough season. I think we're going to have more losses than wins. We're not going to be in a championship. And Traylor is safe. Traylor's completely safe. But he is definitely going to have to go through and crack some heads and maybe cut some people and try and bring in some more talent to get that program back to where it was last year. And yes, right here slaughtered them. Yeah, but I mean, you're talking UT versus UTSA. Come on.
So 3 little letters here is how UTSA turns that around. NIL.
Yeah.
It feels like the boosters and the people from the powers that be were spending more of that money on facilities and getting infrastructure built up, which is fine, but maybe not as much effort into the NIL market. And they're going to have to dive in. I don't know that UTSA being a new-ish program, and we're talking in terms of college football.
Yeah,
some
10
of these
years.
teams have been around for 100 years, but they may not have the fan base and the boosters and the big donors and backers yet. But I think that'll change relatively soon here. I like where UTSA is going. It's unfortunate to have a down season. I'm still going to go try to catch them. If you're going to any games, let me know, and we'll try to hook up and go to a game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. So alum, boosters, give till it hurts, baby. Let's bring in some serious competition. Let's get this program back on track. Speaking of programs that don't need help, though, let's talk about the Texas State Bobcats. Okay. You guys played you played on Thursday, the 3rd, and you beat Troy 30, you waxed them 38-17. Troy's not known for being a powerhouse school or anything like that, but it is another win it's another check in the win column. And why don't you talk to us about how they did on Thursday while I look up how Rice is doing?
Yeah, it was a Thursday game, 6:00 kickoff. So I got in about an hour and a half of it before Thursday night football came on. And it was the largest chunk of exposure I had to Texas State thus far. I really like what they're doing. I keep saying I really like things, but I do really like what they're doing. They got another quarterback, and a little Kyler Murray type of quarterback who runs around, looks like he's a 6-year-old in daddy's equipment, but he's a smaller dude. But they are so smart with how they utilize him. Most of these mobile quarterbacks, when they break pocket, they go left, they go right. which is a nightmare for an offensive lineman. This kid climbed the pocket and was able to find so many more open throwing alleys. That was the nature of his success. He climbed the pocket as opposed to running, and he was mobile. He could move, but he was very smart in staying in the pocket. And for those of you who don't know, if you're an offensive lineman and you're blocking, you got control one way, and the quarterback or the running back breaks the opposite way, your man goes to follow, you lose all your leverage, and you're chasing at that point or holding. So very, very smart, and it's a good thing. It's a thing I'd like to see more of with these mobile quarterbacks. When they lose contain, they break the pocket, they go left or right. They don't climb the pocket and find these alleys to make a pass. They look to run, but Texas State ran their offense very well with him in control. He's an older guy, and I had all the information on him, but I can't remember it. But pretty accurate passer. He's a junior or senior. I think he might have one more year of eligibility left after this. But going back to what we were saying about UTSA, Texas State has played the NIL market very well. They've added people, and I didn't think that they could add to this university. As like Jay likes to say, it's a party school. I did not go to Texas State, and to me, growing up in New Braunfels, it was always just college. That's where the college team plays. So, but yeah, it's a party school, and if you can get these guys with some NIL money and take them down to the San Marcos River, you got them.
Mm-hmm. So it was a party school. It has, because a couple of years ago, the powers that be decided that they wanted to break free from that. They changed the name, changed the image, did everything to clean it up. And I'll be honest, it's been successful, right? If you can dip into the NIL market like that and draw in some good talent and build a football program, you've broken your reputation as being a party school, because nobody who's serious about their football career is going to go to a school like that unless they know that that's all they're going to do is specialize in keg stands. So, they're doing it right. UTSA probably could take a couple of notes from them. Now, I'm sorry, Mike, you were going to say something?
Well, just a couple little minor things in there. They have made some improvements to their infrastructure, their stadium, Bobcat Stadium. They recently posted not too long ago that there was less than 4,000 seats available for that game, and Bobcat Stadium sits about 35,000 seats that just got recently renovated. So they're already selling out. They have a game against Arkansas State here at home in San Marcos, and that game is looking to be a sellout, and I probably won't be able to catch that one.
Yeah. No, and that's good, man. I'm glad to see that things have turned around there for Texas State. It's still always going to be Southwest Texas to me, but that's because I'm an old school guy. Make sure that we give a shout out to UIW Cardinals. They are now 3-2 for the season. Looks like they're coming along fairly decently. I don't think they get nearly as much love or attention as they should. I mean, they are a D2, D3 school. So it's going to be hard to try and draw attention to that pretty small program. But they're doing things right there too. They're doing pretty well. I do see them probably making their division playoffs and, potentially bringing home a championship as well. Again, that team's almost as strong as the team that was there last year, right? And they had that incredible quarterback. For the life of me, can't remember his name right now. I'll have to look it up. Okay, there you go. Incredible quarterback last season. And I think with a couple more weapons, they would have absolutely destroyed their division, and possibly even elevated their program a little bit higher. But it is what it is. Okay. Normally we do talk about high school football. We're starting to get a little bit short on time, and I don't want to clip our time talking about the UFL or indoor football or anything like that. So high school football, there were some games, some things happened. Check it out on KSAT's website or WOAI's website, and there you go. Arena football, not really necessarily a whole bunch to talk about. However, I think it's important to note that the IFL is now starting to make some moves, right? They're starting to, forget which team it was, but somebody signed their arguably, I think it was the offensive player of the year quarterback to a multi-year contract. And I can't remember what team it is. I'd have to look it up.
Josh Jones went to, and now I can't remember. I
want
to say it was San Diego. but I'm not 100%.
Don't remember it being the Strike Force, but it could have been. Again, I'd have to go back and look because I just happened to catch it yesterday. Just a brief blurb and just left it there. Now, I'm glad that Elizabeth dropped this comment because now let's talk about the gunslingers and all the crazy signings. Now, Mike, yeah, you are definitely more connected with this right now than we are. Our friends Bobby Otten and everybody else over at Pro Arena Talk right now are on a little bit of a hiatus. I'm fighting Bobby's schedule to actually get him on the show, and at some point in time, Bobby, we're going to have you on here because you are my go-to guy when it comes to arena. But Mike, you're my go-to guy also, but more of the Texas football stuff. So talk to us about all these signings that the Gunslingers have been doing.
Yeah, Coach Manas has been busy. He's the GM, so he's going to bring these guys in that he knows. He brought back in the defensive player of the year, I believe, from Arizona, and I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. Also, the All-IFL center from I can't remember his name either. But you know what? If you go to my page, XFL Mike G on Facebook and XFL Mike G on Twitter, I post all this stuff because they've been rapid signing some of these guys. And this was already reported. Guy Meyer, quarterback from previously Carolina and Orlando, I believe, is already signed. Coach Manas is making moves. They're not standing pat. They're going to have to back up this talk eventually. And it looks like Coach Manas is looking to make some moves now.
Yeah. Well, to go from how high they were in the NAL 3 years ago to that surge that they made to eventually get kicked out in the last game of the playoffs in the NAL, then to make the move to the IFL and have the talent that they did, and yet the struggles that they did. I get Coach Manas is, that type of person where he wants to win. He's got kind of that Vince Lombardi mentality, if you will. And so he's going to make things happen. And if it means, stacking the deck and having 5 quarterbacks on the roster before camp starts to see who's hungry and who's got it, he's going to do it. He is going to pull out every single stop that he can and negotiate every possible deal that he can with the money that he has available to get the absolute best team. And not even necessarily he's not looking for the Dallas approach, get the best, talent, top dollar guys, whatever. He's getting the best that money can buy. Okay. So if a guy costs a little bit more and he's worth it, perfect. If he's great and you can get him for a little bit cheaper, then that's what Coach Manas is going to do. He's going to build a phenomenal team. And I don't usually get super, super excited about arena ball. But this season I'm actually starting to get stoked about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to tamp it down a little bit and live my college, my football, my high school right now, my NFL. Every day except for Wednesday basically is accounted for me. I've got freshman, JV, and varsity football, of course, college football and NFL football, among fantasy as well. So Wednesday is the only day I have off right now.
And we've talked about this before. Right now, we're living in unprecedented times. We have successfully completed our first full year of football this last year, right? Now we're starting off with year number 2. We've got NFL, we've got UFL, we even have, we have Canadian football, we have the, 3 or 4 different arena leagues going on, which, by the way, I'm super excited to see that the Corpus Christi Tritons have moved up, right? Not that there was anything against their league or anything like that, but I think their team was better than what they were kind of matching up against. So it's going to be really great to see that Corpus team playing some real talent out there. But so you've got, IFL, potentially AF1, what's going to develop with that. The AIF is going to be launching this next season. All of that stuff, right, is going to carry us. Basically, we're going to have about 2 weeks off. I mean, the NFL draft is going to happen, the NFL combines. We just finished up some of the UFL combines, and we're getting updates from UFL on a much more regular basis. Things are starting to ramp up again. We're living in a time where you get about 2 to 3 weeks off in the summertime where there's no real football. And then you're back into the NFL, right, with the training camps and everything else. And I cannot think, maybe when electricity was starting to be, mass supplied to houses and stuff like that, might have been a pretty good time. But otherwise, we're in pretty dang good times right now. And Elizabeth, you're right. Is it March yet? I mean, I still got hope for my green and gold. And I'm gonna watch them, crash down into the ground like the Hindenburg, just like my Milwaukee Brewers did with baseball. Just like my New York Rangers are going to do in hockey, right? That's fine. It is what it is, whatever. I don't care. But I'm enjoying this, right? I'm enjoying being in the NFL season and watching all these other things coming in, the UFL and stuff like that. So we talked a little bit about arena ball. I'm excited also, if I remember correctly, the West Texas Desert Hawks are coming back. Excited about that. I think they're the Desert Hawks. But I'm excited about that.
That's unofficial. We're still waiting on that one. But I believe AF1 is bringing back Beaumont into the AF1, which is formerly AFL. I believe Beaumont is in the AF1, not the NAL. But I know Beaumont is going to have a team next season as well.
Yeah, they're coming in. And if you look at, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, plans are a little bit ambitious, making me a little bit nervous about the AF1 again. But they've officially expanded into Mexico. So there's going to be a Mexico team in AF1. That's going to be interesting to see where they play and how they play and stuff. I know Jorge had talked about the AIF and like work visa problems and things like that and whatever. I don't think that it's going to be that big of a deal. I'm sure they've got all the governmental paperwork and everything straightened out to at least allow these players to come over. And especially if they're, U.S. citizens playing for a team in Mexico, it'd be pretty easy to come back.
Well, we have the LFA, the Liga de Fútbol Americana, which has American players play over there. I've followed one player from Mexico to the CFL, so getting a visa and playing over in Mexico is really not that big of a deal. Yeah. I'd love to go see the environment because I talked with Jorge one time about the entertainment at a game. When there's no action, you've got to be entertained as an American at an NFL game or a college game. There's got to be music and dancing. And in Mexico, the crowd is the entertainment. You're singing and chanting and dancing. I want to be in that environment at least once in my life.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I'm kind of hoping that, that our beloved Brahmas do really well this year again. And we stick it to St. Louis twice in their home. You guys know how I feel about St. Louis. There is no love lost there whatsoever. I didn't like them when they have the Rams. I don't like them when they got the Battle Hawks, but I'm also trying to think, the Blues. Ain't no love lost for being St. Louis, right? No disrespect to my St. Louis friends up there. I love you guys, but your sports teams, man, I got a big beef with them. Okay, that's out of the way. But I'm hoping that our Brahmas do really, really well so that we can get those numbers up. I was having a discussion with somebody on Facebook earlier today about the draw, right? They had made a comment about, us losing that home game and what we could have done to play that game somewhere else. And realistically, money talks. We're averaging about 12 to 15,000 a game, which is lower than what a lot of people were kind of expecting. 15,000 purchase tickets don't really buy you a lot of leeway, right? So scheduling conflicts, the Dome wins out because they're bringing in much bigger dollar amounts than what our little team is. And it's not like we can take those 15,000 tickets and go up to like Southwest Texas and be like, hey guys, can we borrow your stadium for a day? That's going to be a little bit rough. Plus, it's turf. It's going to be a little bit different. But that's not necessarily a bad idea. Now, if we had 30,000 fans, probably a different story, right? So let's see what we can do to get those numbers up so we don't run into the situation again that if, for whatever reason, 2026, we're looking at the schedule and they're trying to figure out how to manage the Final Four and the Home and Garden show and Disney on Ice and, Cher and Skeletor, World Tour concert, whatever. We run into those problems. We can look north to San Marcos and be like, hey guys, you remember us? We got a proposition for you. Right. But so right here, Elizabeth, you're right. Use the Bobcat Stadium, but we're not going to use it when we only have 12,000 people.
Right? I would have rather had played at Rice again. As torturous as that heat and humidity was, I would have rather slept in Houston. But I understand, they've got to hit these numbers so they can get a better deal. It's unfortunate and it stinks and it sucks that we're the one that got the crappy end of the stick. But that's on us as fans. We need to get the word out. We need to share. There's how many people don't know about the Brahmas at all in San Antonio. And not just for me in San Antonio, but the entire San Antonio market, including New Braunfels, all the way up into Austin. If you want, everything south of Austin should be Brahma's territory.
Yep, south down to Laredo, west over to Eagle Pass, east over to Corpus and Victoria. Right.
I mean, we even have a Spanish-speaking podcast.
We do.
And there's I believe Houston has a Spanish broadcast of games as well. The Roughnecks have a Spanish language broadcast of games. That's awesome.
Yeah. But what are we doing in San Antonio, right? Like we got to help do our part and get the word out. So anytime you hear of an event that the Brahmas are doing, blast it on your socials, spread the word. You see somebody wearing a Brahmas shirt, go up to him and be like, hey man, go Brahmas, and say it nice and loud so people hear you. And they're like, Brahmas, what the heck is that? And then you guys can both tag team and have a conversation with somebody who doesn't know about the Brahmas, right? That's what I've been doing, and it's actually been pretty successful. Going forward, right? We've got we know we're playing Birmingham, Memphis, Michigan, DC, and Trash Lewis. We're going to be playing them twice. Now, I'm pretty sure because we were on the road last year. I'm sorry, away games are Birmingham, Memphis, Michigan, Arlington, and SA. Why are we playing Birmingham twice?
Are we playing Birmingham twice?
I don't know. I'm looking at your notes.
If it's my notes, I might have typed it wrong.
That's okay. Anyways, the schedule is on Mike G's page. I think we shared it on Texans Talking Football. We've got a couple of games that are right. We're going to have to be doing a lot of road trips, and especially at the beginning of the season, it looks like we're going to have at least 5 on the road. We're going to St. Louis. It's going to be St. Louis. It is what it is. Okay. But make sure if you can't make all the games, try and at least make, like the Arlington game and the Houston game. And Chris, you're right. There's multiple reasons why we need to stick it to Birmingham, right? One of which, and I hate to say this, but it was the bias that we saw at that game. And here's what I mean, right? That championship game, we're playing Birmingham. Jay Sternberger, former Packer, and I disavow any connection with him outside of that, was officially kicked out of that game and stayed on the sidelines. And then 5 minutes later, 10 minutes, something like that, the referees come up and they escort him to the player tunnel. And what does he do? He literally steps outside of the carpeted area into the walkway where it was concrete, and then comes back into the carpet area and is signing autographs and stuff. He was told to leave the field and go into the dressing room. The referees gently escorted him out. Mr. Sternberger, can you please come along with us and stand over here? And then he came right back on the field. right? So like, what was the difference? So yeah, there's a little bit of bias there, and that's the refereeing. That's not St. Louis or anything like that. That's a little bit of a beef I have with the league, but that's just me. Anyways, we've got a bunch of road games. We're going to have to be traveling a lot. There are going to be several of us that will be traveling. Bulls on Tour will be happening again. We may be a little bit lighter this year. We may not be. But you're welcome to coordinate with any of us and just watch socials. You'll be seeing everybody that's going to be going, right? I know Mike is going to be traveling to at least one or two of those games, not just the Houston one. I mean, heck, we saw each other at the Rice Stadium and where else?
Choctaw.
But then I saw you out of state somewhere too, didn't I?
No. Haven't left the state of Texas yet.
Okay.
But yeah, anybody who's watching who doesn't know the Horns Forward podcast or the Bulls on Tour or the Texans Talking Football, have never been to a game or witnessed a game with these guys, you got to do it at least once. I'm going to highly, highly recommend going to Arlington, sitting with these guys, and just be prepared. Let it all out. Don't hold nothing back. Have a good time.
Yes. Elizabeth, you guys are more than welcome, right? We travel as a family. Everybody is welcome. And we do have a lot of fun. And it may be a little bit amusing. I do know that one of our newer additions to the family, Sleepy Brahma, had not experienced this level of joy until she started hanging out with us. And I do feel bad for her that she has to be associated with me when I'm in SAJ mode, and she's like, I don't know this guy at all. So
I will admit, it caught me off guard. I was like, what did I get myself into? But
good times.
But it was loud. It was supportive of the team, is where it needed to be, but no cursing. Jay's got kids. He knows what it's like to have kids in the stands. You don't, need sensitive little ears hearing all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, you can hear them say, I remember the first time I dropped, a potential touchdown, I remember my first time getting kicked out of a game, stuff like that. It's fun. You get on them. It's a great time. That's going to make it my mission for this season is to make Arlington our big trip, get big enough to get a bus. And I'm sorry, Jackie, we're going to have to put you to work, get as many people as we need to get to fill a bus and fill a whole section in Arlington and just take over that stadium like we did last year.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's kind of fun knowing that 2 years in a row, we've gone to Choctaw Stadium. BD has a special name for it, and I'm not going to say it on air, but it is nice knowing that we've gone to that stadium twice. First time we went on air, you could hear us louder than their fans were. Coach Ward came running over just to tell us how happy he was that we were there. That was one of the wins that we got our first year. Second year, totally dominated. Wade Phillips made a comment about it. He's not going to run over. He's 1,005 years old. But he made a comment about it. That's where the I-35 rivalry started with the hat, with the Banditos, right? Totally a thing between Marco and Jackie. That is where it started, but this is where legends are born, right? Between two people. And so we're going to continue to keep winning that hat and owning that hat. And I'm sorry, Arlington, friends, we're going to come party with you, but when it comes football time, man, we're going to own you just like we always do. But yeah, let's make that one the game this year that everybody goes to. Let's go, because I didn't get to see TDECU the prior year. I got to see Rice last year. I was not blown away by Rice. Let me put it that way. Okay. When we were the ones that were so loud, our defensive coaches up in the box could hear us, right? That's a feather in our cap. We can do it at TDECU also. We can make that place ours. So try and go to all the games that you can. Mike?
But we don't play. San Antonio does not play in Houston this year. They're in the USFL conference, so we don't play them home and home.
Dang it. Well, then we should just show up to one of their games anyways.
I was thinking Birmingham. Yeah. I need to look at the schedule again, but let's go over there and just raise hell.
if they're playing Birmingham in Houston and we can make that game, we should totally go and support the Roughnecks. I won't wear Roughnecks colors. I'll wear Brahma's colors, but I will 100% give my full energy to the Roughnecks fans to get them motivated and fired up to make sure that they stick it to Birmingham, because I despise Birmingham. Okay, we'll put it that way.
So I've got for the Roughneck home games, I've got the Stallions, the Showboats, the Panthers, DC, and St. Louis. So we can make one of those games and make our. You know what? I'll support Houston, but I might even wear my Brahmas gear just to stick it in there just a little bit.
I will, and I'm thinking Birmingham and St. Louis if those are their home games.
Well, we have to look at how the season shakes out, whether we're going to be playing on the same day or not. And but I can't wait till we get an actual schedule to start, plotting and planning. Not yet.
Yep.
Soon, not yet. Hopefully. Right. What do you think? We can end of January, at the very least.
Oh man, yeah, because I think we still need to get through the not the combine, but the draft. And then start preparing, right? Because that's going to be right in the thick of the NFL playoffs, getting ready for the Super Bowl. So it's going to be probably somewhere around the beginning of January, so they can start ramping up advertising and things like that, and not lose momentum while still in the thick of NFL playoffs, right? Because that's going to be tough competition to try and draw attention away. And yes, Elizabeth, I believe it's November, so we're about a month out from, well, maybe a month and a half, because I think it's towards the end of November. But yeah, we're about a month and a half out from that supplemental draft, and big things are definitely coming for the UFL. Okay, we are way over on time. Mike, I want to make sure that we plug this one last thing, because I think it was you who had happened to bring my attention to this first, and then I started having a conversation with Los Mysterio about this. But PJ Walker signing with CFL, how big of a deal is that?
He signed with Calgary. He's not on their active roster yet. They're gearing up for the playoffs, so he may be elevated. He may not. He may be just one of those, just in case something happens in the playoffs, we want to have somebody on our roster who is ready to go. He may come back to the UFL as a send-off, play one final season in Houston. That's the way I'd like to see it written, But yeah, he'll be in Canada and the CFL, at least to the end of the playoffs.
Right. And I'm wondering how much, like you said, I mean, is this, insurance just to make sure that Calgary has enough firepower to make it through the playoffs and win that Grey Cup? Or is this more of a I know PJ Walker's towards the end of his career, but is this more of a long-term kind of commitment where, they're bringing him in now to kind of get him ready for potentially another season or two? And do they allow him to come back to Houston, play one more, knowing full well that there could be an overlap in those schedules, right? It's going to be really interesting to see how that works out, because PJ Walker definitely is a recognizable name. He had some, great time in the XFL, put in some time in the NFL. Now he's going to, potentially play in the CFL. This may be his retirement world tour, if you will, right? And then come back to Houston, where it all began, and shut it down.
Yeah, but and Roughnecks fans would say he's got some unfinished business, because he never got to finish that season. So, I mean, I'd like to see him come back for one last hurrah. Maybe after the Canadian season's over, we'll get in his ear and start bugging him a little bit about that. Mm-hmm. But I do have some friends on another podcast, Canadian Football Countdown. They're also a partner of AFN, and they're also in our fantasy league. I got a couple of guys that I can ask and see what they think.
Okay. Let's wrap it up with our fantasy football. Mike, how'd you fare this week?
I won. I had 2 players left and a 30-point deficit, I believe. I overcame that and won by 10. But I will announce, for the first time ever, I won, BD won, and getting his first W, SAJ. So for the first time ever, all 3 of us won in our AFN Fantasy Football League. And it's a tough league. if you've looked around, it's a tough league. Every single guy in it does what we do. They're either a writer, a contributor, or a podcaster. So it's a serious thing. Yep. But we all got our first W.
And shameless plug for myself, right? And not necessarily a shot against my opponent, but Royce Waxenfelter, he was number 1 in the league. He was undefeated, 4-0 going up against the 0-4 Pack Attack. And I got my win, baby. I got my win, right? Just like, our college football season, never count out the underdog.
Yeah.
But I got lucky.
Do you know who you play next week in our league?
I am playing, trying to find out now.
I want to see when he realizes it.
Am I playing you?
Nope, not yet.
Am I playing BD?
You're playing BD.
Oh, that's a win.
That's a win. BD is actually doing pretty well in this league. I think he and I are tied for like the last playoff position or the second to the last playoff position right now. He's doing fairly well. There's 2 teams in this league that have 1 loss or are undefeated. And then there's 2 teams in this league that either have 1 loss or haven't won anything yet. And everybody else is in playoff contention. So it'll be interesting with the buys and the injuries. We'll see who can manage a fantasy team.
Yeah. I mean, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams right now that are 2 and 3. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are 3 and 2, and only 1 team that's 4 and 1, and 1 team that's 1 and 4.
There you go.
Anything could change. Yeah, anything could change here. Anything could change. That's what I like about this league is that it's tight, right? It's hosted by a bunch of people that know most of them know what the heck they're doing, and then there's me. Okay. I will also say though that another shameless plug for myself. In one of my other leagues where I have a frenemy, I'm 5-0. So I'm going to try and keep that streak going. It's going to be difficult, but we'll see what happens. And then I've got another team where I'm 1 and 4, and that one stinks. So, okay, Mike, I think that is about the end of our nonsense. So definitely, I want to thank you and AFN. You guys have always been great friends to this program. You provide a lot of information for us. You allow us to be lazy. I'm not going to lie. Okay. And we appreciate it. But I also want to give a shout out to our friends at Pro Arena Talk, right? Things are going to start ramping up, and I'm sure we're going to start seeing a lot more activity from them. I know we're going to try and get some of our friends on there. I know Horns Forward Podcast is going to be starting again very, very soon. And we're going to be bringing on a whole bunch of special guests. I know we've got one of the defensive coaches from the San Antonio Brahmas will be coming on. I believe Jackie has made contact with a couple of players that are going to be returning, and it's going to be good stuff, right? So we're getting ramped up. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, W Energy Drink. I did not make some for myself tonight, but guys, we're adults, right? We function on lack of sleep and just pure vitriol, if you will, and sometimes you need a little extra boost. W Energy Drink, I really think is the way to go. I've tried a couple of their flavors now. It's a great energy supplement. It doesn't give you all the caffeine jitters and all that craziness. So go check out our Facebook page. There's a link on there. You get a discount code. Try it out for yourself. Let me know what you guys think. But again, shout out to W Energy Drink, to our friends at End Zone Helmet Painting, who, by the way, did the helmets for Charles Woodson's whiskey and now vodka, and is connected with Charles Woodson. And I'm a little jealous about that because he's kind of one of my favorites, right? I mean, I'm wearing his number right now. Anyways, but Mike, you want to give any shout outs real quick before we sign off?
Just shout out to AFN. We continue to grow. We're adding new people all the time. And if you're interested in doing what we do, send me a message. Also follow me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, XFL Mike G. I'm real easy. You can be lazy and not have to dig all these stories and sources out. Just go to my page. I cover everything in alternative football in Texas, in the state of Texas. So that's UFL, IFL, AF1, NAL, a little bit of college in there. But yeah, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Not YouTube yet, sorry.
Yes. We are the ones that are on YouTube, Facebook, X. We're also on Instagram. We've got our new podcast on Spotify. BD was supposed to get back to me about the Apple podcast or Apple Store podcast thing. I don't think we're there yet. I think we're more in the Pear section than we are Apple, but we'll get it figured out. In the meantime, guys, biggest thing, we can't do this without you. Episode 82 is officially in the books. We're creeping closer and closer to episode 100. I got to figure out what the heck we're going to do, because it's got to be big. We got to make some kind of a party out of it. But in the meantime, thank you guys for all of your support, all of you watching, putting up with us, all of our wonderful guest hosts that actually make this show worthwhile, and just all of you guys. Thank you so much. Okay. With that, I think I've kissed enough babies and shaken enough hands. Now it's time to shake babies and get out of here. So appreciate it, guys. Horns forward. Go Pack, go. Love you guys.